Evansville, there's two of them there. One of them's for that, part of that final design on that sewer line, and the other one is on the, but the sewer line has about $1,000 up on it for that one's being, oh, it's for that water observation. Well, that water project, so the water project's done from Olunik.
What was the Gainer concrete? It was
Is that
for
what-
curb, it was for the curb and gutter on Fifth Street.
There's two of them, there was, as I said, I wrote my notes,
So 1880.
one was for utility and one was for street, and I got it mixed up, I have it here. Storm drain,
So 8th and Willow.
she's saying one was storm drainage.
I think Bob talked about that last time.
Yeah.
It was,
Page it under.
there was a,
One of them. Curb and gutter on Fifth Street, 4830, 8th and Willow. Standard curb and gutter driveway, 4 inches reinforced room finished concrete. Yeah, I mean,
you should have
Okay.
fixed
it'll
it.
be that's not or whatever. It's only a lot.
Looks good.
So I would, entertain a motion to approve the ordinance as presented.
Mr. Mayor, so moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion, and a second, all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, vote no. Passes. Proposed minutes from last meeting.
Good to me.
If those are approved. And anything to add, I understand we want to add library flooring or carpeting to the agenda, correct? And the sidewalk ordinance or the
The sidewalk resolution,
resolution,
the one that would increase the reimbursement to $3 for
right,
every
that we
new
spoke
sidewalk.
about last time.
Yeah.
Any chance?
We also had St. Joseph's Crossing discussion about the road. I think there's a gentleman here who wanted to ask the commissioner a few questions about it.
St. Joseph's Crossing Road. Anything else? All right, so the first, item on the agenda, let me just see, those would be, F, G, and H. Is the, VHS agreement, and we had a work session before this meeting where we, have come better to understand the situation with the work to repair the storm damage, and we were about to go through the list of projects, potential projects for phase 2, and do our best to determine if there are any that don't.
So on the agenda was the VHS agreement,
Yeah,
and let's summer, am I correct in saying is that they put forth a document that they want to approve so that they start being paid, and that is what is happening, because they'd already sent us a bill, it'll be in the next appropriation? Is that what that was, just that agreement was just so that you start invoicing us?
Yeah, I think we're all straight now.
Okay, so there's nothing that needs to be approved, because it'll be approved at the next, the appropriation for that first payment will be the next meeting, so that part is taken care of.
okay, so I think the essential point there is that there was no real change to the agreement, you were just making sure that we were aware that it was time to get going. So the phase 2, or continue, projects are of interest now, and so that, I don't know, is that actually a different agenda item, or we're still under the same?
Same thing will work.
So I guess we could pick up where we just left off, more or less, and be able to take some action if we want. Anything that's a blank on this document in the comments column is a phase 2 potential fix, correct? And I think, Francis, you would propose we just sort of look at it line by line. Leslie Fire Station. Seems like that should be done.
Is that one of them that you guys are going back and forth with the insurance on the gauge and metal? or-
Just assume all of them are settled perfectly, and we just want clarity on, are there any that are considered, you know, that the city would potentially be abandoning for some reason or another.
So basically not concerned about ensuring that aspect of this building.
Exactly.
Just a consensus, Mr. Mayor, on each one, you think?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's
Yeah. And I don't,
There's at least 3 lines here. It's an unknown generator building, an unknown lean-to, and an unknown water pump. Do we know where those are?
Yes, they're labeled unknown because the insurance was not aware of their existence. So that's just a label for our communication sake with the insurance.
So for us.
Yeah, you need to
tell
tell
us
them where they're at.
That's
Yeah,
right.
what are we talking about?
They're working pump houses and things that need to be fixed. How about that?
No, that's halfway there. I just wanna know where they are.
So the generator building is near your sewage facility down south.
This is 2948.
2948.
It's the one that's got a D on the side of it, it's just north of the main sewer treatment plant building, the metal building. You can't miss it, it's got a big loop on the side.
I would just like to make a comment for myself here, which is that since it's not all that clear to me from reading these descriptions exactly what the scope of damage is or exactly what's being fixed, I don't know if I'm comfortable sitting here saying yes or no. The golf course stuff is pretty straightforward to me. I don't know if there are any that are obvious, except maybe this building number 18 water pump slide, which I now know is that building that we don't use. That seems like a low-hanging fruit.
Would it be helpful if we have a photo of the building and then a really general summary of it's the roof, it's the
To
siding?
me, that would be incredibly helpful, and what would be even more helpful is a comment from the city staff person who kind of owns that.
Oh, the department head,
Yeah, that would be the most helpful thing for me.
And then,
that'd be great.
I think we should work together to give you a clear document, so.
update the other unknowns, update what they are and where they're at.
I think that'd be spectacular, because I mean, this is important, not just because we want to do the right thing, but if we're saying we don't want it, then we're not gonna be able to insure that thing anymore, so.
Well, we want to insure them as known buildings, not.
Yeah, but yeah, precisely, if I wanna know what
But if we delay this, is this gonna slow you guys down?
it seems like they had planned to do on this
So I
page.
turned in the bill for the phase 1 initial installment, so we're off to the races
Nice.
now. This phase 2, we'll just build a map, we'll give you a page by page of each building with a picture, so you better identify it, and then that way you can circle it around. We'll put that together this week. Well, I think, and then we need to get together with Maurice on, with his department heads, or at least give him information with his department heads on, here's what they're saying needs to be repaired, or what we're saying needs to be repaired.
And their input on whether or not we should bother, that's their recommendation. I think that would be incredibly helpful,
I agree.
so that we don't just sort of guess on this. But I agree that we do need to go building by building. Now understanding what these numbers mean, that makes a big difference.
So I stepped out for a minute there. Where's the library roof on the schedule? So there's a gentleman here.
It's on phase 1.
Okay, so when do you think that, as soon as that would start being looked at? I'm only asking because their board's asking, library board.
It'll make it a priority.
And it was leaking,
We can do it
so
first.
there it is, library.
Okay, no, that's fine, Dennis is here, yeah, he's back there. They're gonna try to make it a priority, they're gonna start, when do you think we'll start seeing some more approximately? This month, next month? It's too hard to say,
Middle of the month.
Yeah, I mean, early next month.
for the next month, thank you.
September, right?
Yeah.
We're in August.
When you say next month,
Okay.
I think that's, anything else for VHS before they go? And so it's good look on these cities. Okay.
I would like to add something. There's 2 things real quick. One is what was the initial amount that Travelers, their initial, settlement letter, what was that at? Was that 900,000?
$957,294.69.
And we're at 1.1, so I just wanted to thank you guys for the work in that. That's a huge task. I know meeting with the adjusters and everything, that probably helped with that initial offer that they gave. I think that needs to be stated. The second question that I have is, in these buildings, some of these buildings where there is still discussion with the insurance company, let's say that they don't come to an agreement or they don't budge or whatever, is there any recourse that the city has to?
I think that's gonna be a broader discussion of what that next step looks like if we can't get them where they need to be.
Okay.
To cover the damages, or we can't agree on the scope of the damage.
We have confidence.
I wanted to say too that I appreciate the work that's been put into this. Not easy. So I guess I did have a third question because I do have Travelers on my personal house. But I did talk to an adjuster about this. He told me, I don't know what level he's at, but he said that if there are certain things on the scope of work that we choose not to do, we could tell Travelers that we're not doing it, but we intend to use the depreciation for upgrades to other buildings, and they would release that depreciation. So I'm gonna give you an example. Let's say we choose not to do the golf course buildings. From what I understood from him was, if we wanted to upgrade or, the other structures, they would release the depreciation on those buildings, even though that we aren't doing the work. Is that something that you guys could check with Travelers on? He told me that, and I do believe I have that in recording too. So, but that's just my personal experience, because I have
Have you ever heard
Travelers.
of that?
My experience is, like, for instance, let's use this building as an example. They're gonna pay $100,000 to fix everything, but 50 of that was on windows, and you don't replace a window. If you put those upgrades into something else on the building, they will release all the depreciation, but now your windows aren't covered in depreciation.
It's still the
so
same thing.
But still, if we can get, I
I
don't know.
It seems like probably a no, but we can verify it.
I'll ask a question. We haven't told Travelers we're not doing anything yet. We haven't told them that we're not gonna do anything. So it's still open, but we can ask questions, see if that's an opportunity.
So it may not be appropriate in line with discussion, but it's more just curiosity. How does the deductible work on this? And I don't do a whole lot of insurance claims, right? So it's trying to remember, like if I have a deductible on my vehicle of $1,000 and I hit a deer and it's cost me $5,000 to do a repair, the insurance company's gonna give me $4,000 because I have a $1,000 deductible, right?
Right.
But I still have to pay the $5,000 to the body repair shop. So on here though, the repair, on something is, let's just take the historical museum, the repair is total, the RCV is $14,202, and I think what we approved for you all is $14,202. So that's the amount that we approved for you guys to do all the work. But the insurance company is keeping the deductible.
I thought it was all based on our 1% wind-hail claim of all of our insurance.
So just to be clear with you, that deductible line, I almost see that on no claims at all. It's usually just one deductible line. The insurance company put that in here. And I do think for the purposes of us taking down project by project, it's nice to have it here to understand how much is coming out, but I think to your point, the deductible's $151,000 on a whole job, no matter what.
Why do the deductibles, they vary? The percentages aren't the same. I mean, that first line, golf clubhouse, the deductible's only $2,320 on a $16,817.04. You go down to the one that was just mentioned, the Historical Museum, $14,202.65, the deductible is almost twice the deductible of the other building. Why do they, why aren't they, are they, is it,
It's been a while since I've read the policy, but the policy does dictate that.
it does dictate that? So the deductible for certain buildings is higher than other buildings, other structures?
That's what I recall.
And why is that? Do we know?
I don't know.
You don't know?
And then it looks like there's a maximum, the 10,000, when you see it get bigger.
Yeah, that's not
That's
at 10,000.
on certain buildings.
But
Well, it
there's
could also be the
26,000.
value of the actual specific building.
That's what I remember.
It's 1% of the value of the building, not the value of the claim.
Okay.
So that is why it could be different.
Okay.
So if you have,
Yeah.
so what you're saying, yeah, if you have a really, inexpensive building, but the value to fix it is a
Yeah,
lot
higher than,
than the value of the actual, pump house.
Just so you know, that 1% is what we currently have. They're trying to push everybody to 2 or 3%. And we discussed this not too long ago about building up a reserve so that we have to eat this kind of loss because
It's coming.
and I thought it was 1% based on all what we had insured on the wind hail side or whatever,
That might be, maybe that's a maximum too.
something like that, so that's why it's so much. But if they wanna, it could have basically been twice that, apparently, by 2%.
All right. Any more on this tutorial on how deductibles are absorbed within costs?
So it seems like we're paying the insurance company the deductible, which would, but if they're withholding that from, how does it?
In your earlier explanation, I thought you explained it perfect. You mentioned, I have a $5,000 incident on my vehicle, I have a $1,000 deductible. The insurance company keeps $1,000, pays me $4, and I give the repairman $5.
The insurance company just gives you a check for 4,000 and then you pay 5 to the car repair.
Okay, but if that makes sense, but am I missing something here on, because what the city has approved for the total cost is the RCB.
Is it because the amount that you've got check-wise is higher than, the amount you've approved less the deductible? Is that your question?
Can you say that again?
So your 644 that you've approved us to do versus the checks that you've received is 698. Why is that? Is that what you're asking?
No, it's all right, I'll follow up later, it's more of a, it seems like something's going slightly different than the normal process.
But to move forward with what, I mean, we'll figure out the math at some point, but you can just help Maurice with those phase 2 projects, we can have a better sense of what we want. Anything else for now on that? Okay. Thanks again for the
Thank you,
explanation.
guys.
The next item on the agenda is ordinance number 1356, maximum speed limit on city streets, and I think this is just formalizing what we already agreed to.
The standard traffic ordinance that was adopted has a statute in there, 30. If we change what's in there, we have to adopt the ordinance. And the next year, we incorporated in that front page, that SDO, like we did the J-turn some years ago. So this just needs to be done, so it's on the books. This ordinance. It's published on our website.
So we have approved the action already. I would entertain a motion unless you want any further discussion to approve ordinance number 1356 as presented.
No further discussion, Mr. Mayor, I so move.
I have a motion, do I have a second? Have a motion and a second, all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Aye, those opposed vote no. Did you vote, for instance?
He abstains.
No, it's fine, whatever.
Okay, thank you.
That whatever is translated to aye, is
Thank you.
great thing, that's approved. The next item on the agenda is sewer projects, which in particular is gravity drain.
Just an update, I did get a hold of the bond council, he's out of town, put the names out of town, but, he thinks drafting the letter, I'd suggest last meeting will be appropriate, and, I don't know his schedule, because I thought it'd be here tonight, but it'd be the next meeting probably. That's all I have.
Next item on the agenda is park trees.
I'd like about $3,000 for more trees.
In addition, so additional trees to the ones we've already purchased.
From last year.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, it used to be we put in $500,000 a year, many years ago, and then we just stopped, and then they just been dying, so. that's it.
Where do you want to put these additional?
All throughout the Riverside Park.
Remember you gave us that map with a bunch of,
Mhm.
is he just continuing to fill in those circles, or are these new?
New
I seem
circles.
to recall we just did part of it to start with, so.
Yeah.
As long as they're not where the pickleball courts are gonna go.
These would be 6 footers, pots like this, so decent sized trees. So, protection.
Consensus or?
Countywide sales tax.
Yes, it would just be 3,000 whatever, so it'll come before you again, he just wants to put the plan together, I'm not sure what he enacted. It's not time.
I'm in favor of that.
Alright, thank you.
Yeah, that's,
How many trees were that?
We couldn't get that figured out, I'll report back.
I'm good with that, I
is
just
that,
wanna know.
is that the ACV or the RCV?
No,
Yeah,
sorry.
no, I asked him that same question, I asked him the same question, he couldn't recall exactly.
All right.
Trees were probably uninsurable.
You know, this is funny, I added agenda items F, G, and H, not noticing that agenda item E was blank. So in any case, the next agenda item is, library carpeting. Did you want to speak about it at all, Dennis, or do you just?
I can.
When Dennis was last here, we had a quote from the company, and in the package, you should see that it said that you wanted to see how sales tax went this year, and then basically come back at a later time. So,
The existing floor is not getting better, I'll say that.
You've looked at this? I mean, the thing is, it's really expensive. And this fund, I think, you have an appreciation. This is the fund that you're getting.
maybe, have any of you seen the carpet, or wish to see the carpet, or?
I was in there about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago.
Okay.
It's bad, no, I 100% agree with you, Dennis, it's in bad shape.
I think it's original probably, I don't know that, but it's probably been here 35 years.
I remember, when, it's been 20 years since we took our kids and it's the same, so I know that.
What was the cost?
I think they quoted 50, 49. 49 was it? I rounded it up to 50, I think, but, and
I
that
can't
quote's gonna
remember
be a
that.
year old.
Yeah, I mean, so we probably certainly need to update that, and I can't remember off the top of my head if that included
Moving
the
everything out.
shelving being moved.
I don't think it did.
Yeah, so.
We were looking at borrowing some shelf moving equipment that the place we were gonna borrow from had sold theirs. Oh, their other branch had it there, so it would be an ordeal. But there was an opportunity to also just raise it up on the spot and go underneath it like that. That was one option. The other option was to remove it all, Dennis.
Yeah, I think your raising them up idea would be the best. I've seen them when I worked in the state, they did it in our building down there. That's what they did. You know, it's just raised cubicles up and desks and everything.
And they have these jacks, but we have,
I think it's also something that we could see if, because the county uses this library too, would this be something that they could help fund-wise, or?
it's,
It's our building.
it's worth, yeah.
You asked.
Francis, you had a comment?
Yeah. So if we do this, more than likely it's gonna be out of the countywide sales tax fund, probably the fund. So would it be, I think we've got some variables in that fund right now, and, it's second meeting of August. I think we've got we can probably put together a pretty good, overview on what that fund's gonna look like for the rest of the year. And that's kind of the question, is, because there's that fund's kind of volatile. We had some expenses kind of unknown over the last couple of years with C-CLIP coming in very high because of the delay from COVID. I mean, literally all that has been compounding on that countywide sales tax fund to kind of make it a little bit tight this year. And I think that would be helpful for me, is to try to take a look at where we're at, the countywide sales tax fund, and then how does that fund project out towards the end of the year, to make sure we're not getting that fund down too low or even going in the negative potentially. Because that's gonna be the fund where the flooring would come from. And so we know that fund's got a few things remaining this year, which could get it pretty close to zero. So that would be my concern. That would be my ask, is maybe at the next meeting, we could have a estimate on the rest of the year.
I've done a couple of them, in recent months, whatever, it is keeping track with last year's, the county was slightly ahead, but it is kind of a wild card. I was, next meeting slide, I was wanting to know if you're gonna add to one of these existing work sessions. Well, you've got some, but don't decide that tonight, so I will, we can get our, remittance from the state, the last week of each month. So we will be getting a new one, and I'll update it.
That would be very helpful.
Mhm.
Thank you. Because I don't think we're ready to commit that today.
Just with all the projected expenses.
Yeah, oh, yeah, that too, yeah. I was thinking the revenue side, I got that, the expense side, we kind of have that, so interestingly, next meeting is the budget hearing and the revenue neutral rate hearing, so, we have a version of it in there, but that's never the, sharp pencil one, so I'll have,
So what kind of a timeline are we looking at here?
Well, I mean, once we see the projected revenue and expenses, then we can make a decision, probably as soon as we see those numbers.
Which will be in,
And that's the next meeting.
okay.
Not promising, but at least we'd be in a position, I mean, I agree with that. My concern is we keep getting little things like, hey, can we have some planters, hey, can we have some trees, all good stuff, but then a $50,000, that's pretty significant.
well, it definitely,
Can we get an updated quote too? I don't know if
From
tariffs,
Kaiser?
well, I don't know if tariffs would affect the cost that much, or
We
what
can ask
have you, but,
we can ask him, why, he already knows, but,
and then is it worth us having him quote out moving the shelving, or is that something the city can handle?
I don't think it's a city thing, I think it's gonna be a library thing. I think their branches can get some people together to help too, the city can help as well, but I'm not sure we're responsible for moving their merchandise.
Yeah, I think it'd have to be maybe we get some volunteers or something.
Correct.
It'd have to be a coordinated effort.
Mhm.
Maybe have to do half of it and then do the other half or something, I don't.
But we can get an updated, well, we'll see if we can get an updated quote from the gentleman that did it, and, at that next meeting, updated sales tax. But I was just gonna say, it was never gonna be an early year decision anyway, because this fund is getting, hit, and there's stuff that's coming in, so it's gonna be this time of year anyway, so.
All right, so some numbers for next meeting.
One more,
Pretty soon I'm gonna have to actually come out to the,
I'll stay in the.
State.
all right, I think we're getting closer.
Somebody had mentioned to the director about putting wood floor or something in there, For them, that won't work, it has to be some type of sound deadening
Carpet.
carpet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were in those, well, you weren't in the meetings, we met here with, some of the library folks and the guy, we went through all the different options. And, but, yeah, the quote we got was for carpet, I believe.
It gets noisy enough in there with, on certain days, when kids are there.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda, sidewalk resolution, which we discussed, we agreed in principle last time that
It needs to
we
be
need to
updated.
adjust the,
You asked for different ways on calculating whatever, but, so the resolution's the same as it was from all those years ago, with just a different dollar amount in there, $3. I took an email, I asked Francis how he came up with his numbers, and I started putting it into a memo, and I just didn't get it worked out right. But he kind of explained it at the last meeting, and I am gonna finish this memo because when Jordan asked how we calculated it last time, we didn't have anything written down. So I will finish this, but you don't have to have that done to make
so
the
what
decision.
did you?
I would like you to talk amongst yourselves about $3.
Well, I think we want to increase the amount, we want to keep the program in place, we just need to decide what the reasonable amount is. And it goes from 2 back in 1990,
No, it's 2014 or 16.
2016,
16.
through a heavy inflationary period to 3. I mean, off the top of my head, that doesn't seem absurd, but I'm not.
Was the original idea behind that ordinance to cover like a certain percentage, like 50% or 30%? I like the idea of increasing it from this to
So if I recall correctly, the original intent was to try to get in the ballpark of covering materials. And so it's a sidewalk reimbursement program. So trying to encourage people to improve sidewalks, but also keep the costs low. And so if somebody's willing to do the work, have a contractor do the work themselves, whatever the case may be, and I think we've seen both situations where a homeowner has done the work themselves and where a homeowner, property owner has hired a contractor to do it. But it's to help offset the cost because the commission at that time saw the sidewalks as a public walkway and public infrastructure, so what can we do to help encourage it, but also keep the cost low? And so the goal was, hey, we'll pay for materials, they take care of labor. Hope is that nobody's gonna be profiting from the sidewalk reimbursement. So back then, whatever we had it at, I think we had it at 185 at one point in time, then we increased it to 2, I think it's currently at 2. Running some numbers, I can go through those if you want, but I think it could be justified to go to $3 per square foot. In an ideal world, at $200 a yard, perfectly 4 inches thick, just the concrete is about $2.50 per square foot. Just the concrete at 4 inches. There's a lot of times we require 6 inches at driveways, and concrete is anything but ideal, so you're gonna have the variable, so does it justify adding, what's that, adding 50 cents to the $2.50? I don't know if somebody's got various materials, if they do a little wire mesh in there versus fiber mesh, if they, I don't know, $2.50, $3, I think $3 is justifiable, but
I'm in favor of 3.
Yeah, and I have his example here, I just didn't sum it up nice, 50-50. So sometimes people have a driveway, sometimes they don't, sometimes people have a corner lot that has 2 sidewalks, so they have to,
So are we tonight just saying, please finish that and we'll look at passing this resolution?
I think the resolution can be acted on separately if you agree $3.
Yeah.
This is just to document it. And so what Francis had given you here was the $2.50, that was for the concrete only, then the materials, the extra stuff, isn't accounted for, we just gonna round it up to 3. It's not perfect, but it's, supposed to incentivize people to maintain their sidewalks.
So I'm in favor of it. I'd be happy to entertain a motion to amend, I don't have a number here, the
So I would
sidewalk.
just say approve ordinance 325, because that's what I did.
Ordinance 325.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, before.
Yeah, sir.
Okay, I'm all for the reimbursement portion of this resolution. However, the volunteer group, section, I'm not for that at all. I think it leaves it open to picking and choosing. It's not consistent. Consistency would be, we have one program in place that everybody goes by. Cause somebody could come in and say, I want the volunteer program, but we don't. The majority of commissioners say, no, that particular sidewalk doesn't meet the standards for the volunteer program. Or what happens if we don't get enough volunteers? So I'm in favor of the reimbursement, and I think the $3 is probably a fair amount, given, like you said, the inflation that we went through in the last few years. But I'm not in favor of the rest of this. So, with that being said, go ahead.
I'm just trying to. Maybe. Okay, so the. I don't see anything in there that says that a volunteer group is necessarily put together to replace the sidewalk. It's just an option.
Yeah, that's right, and I'm opposed to that option. I don't think that should have any place in this resolution. There should be no volunteer group. I would strike that, I would strike any reference to a volunteer group. I don't want the city paying for the materials. I don't want the taxpayers paying for the materials for somebody's sidewalk in front of their house.
So can I ask a clarifying question then? So are you opposed to the reimbursement because it's one and the same thing? Is the city
not
paying
one
for the
and the same
concrete? Yes, exactly. It is
No,
exactly
it
the
is
same
not.
thing. It's the
It's
city
not.
paying for
It
the
is
concrete, the
not
city
the
paying
same.
for the materials. Mr. Mayor, please, I
Yeah,
have the
let
floor.
him finish.
Okay. Volunteer program or the reimbursement? The city's paying for materials.
With the reimbursement, the city pays for all the materials? The homeowner pays nothing? Is that what you're saying?
If I might,
No, I'm not asking you the question, ask him the question, let him answer. He's a big boy.
how about if you let me answer it because I'm running.
I didn't direct it to you,
Okay, thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor, I directed it to Commissioner Aircamp. So under my question,
Excuse me. He's already answered that question. The reimbursement is precisely to cover the cost of materials. He already explained that. in
the
his
reimbursement covers a portion of the
discussion. He said it
materials.
was, the rate was designed to cover materials. That's the whole basis of the reimbursement program.
The volunteer program, there is no cost to the homeowner. The city pays for all of the materials. Correct? If I'm wrong, just tell me, under the volunteer program, is there any cost to the property owner where the city is replacing that sidewalk?
Okay, that I don't know the answer.
Okay.
That's the,
That's my question. So if anybody can answer that, I'd appreciate that.
would you go ahead, Prince?
Mr. Mayor, I think it's very clear in the ordinance under the volunteer program. The city commission approves the sidewalk replacement in which the city crews will go out and remove the dirt, prepare the area. A volunteer group will come in, form up and pour the sidewalk. The city will pay for the materials. For the reimbursement program, the intention is for the city to reimburse the homeowner for the materials. There is a set dollar amount, so the city knows the cost it will incur when it approves the sidewalk. So yes, if the homeowner chooses to hire a contractor, and if the homeowner ends up ordering more concrete than they need, or they use special materials, yes, the homeowner could incur costs above and beyond the reimbursement amount. But I think if we take a look at the intention behind both options, the intention is for the city to pay for the materials. All the variables, that is up to the homeowner. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
If the city pays for all of the materials, why even have a reimbursement program? Why would we need a reimbursement program? Why wouldn't you would think every homeowner, every property owner would come and say, I want the volunteer project to do my sidewalk. So there's no need to reimburse them because they wouldn't be spending any of their own money to begin with. I quite frankly, the intention is not what I'm really asking about. What I'm asking about is the reality. The reality is, if the volunteer, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong, the volunteer project, if they go that route, and it's approved by a majority of the commissioners, then all the materials are paid for, and there's no cost to that property owner. If they pay for it themselves, or they're denied the volunteer project, program, then they can, perfect example is what John Mitchell just did. John paid for everything himself, and we are going to reimburse him a portion of that. John didn't ask for the volunteer project. Had he asked for the volunteer project, I don't know if it would have been approved or not. But what I'm saying is, the intent is not what I'm asking about. What I'm asking about is if the volunteer project group is used, there's no cost to the property owner. Yes or no?
Right.
Because the labor is provided by volunteers, but you have to have people that are willing to do it for nothing.
Right.
Yes,
Exactly, that's what I said. What if you don't get those volunteers?
So then you have to do it yourself, through the reimbursement program.
Then you can get the reimbursement.
Yeah.
But they're not one and the same at all.
I don't know that further explanation of the same point would be fruitful. I could try to explain it again, or I could just.
There's a motion, was there a motion?
No, Mr. Mayor, if you need to explain something, are you saying I'm not correct in my assessment?
Yes.
All right, then please explain to me. I'm asking you, please explain to me where I'm
In
not
this
correct.
sense, so when Francis is using the word intent, the hinge there is, what is the dollar amount? So the dollar amount was set to pay for all of the materials for the sidewalk. That's what it was set. So the city is saying, we will pay for all of the materials. If a homeowner does not do a volunteer group, then in order to make a sidewalk, he or she is going to have to pay for the materials and the labor to put the sidewalk in.
Mhm.
So what is the city paying for? The materials, but not the labor. But I think that's what Francis Hughes says, the intent, that's what that number is based on. Under the volunteer program, there's a cost associated with the materials that the city was gonna pay for, which it will pay for on the other, and the homeowner doesn't pay for the labor. Why? Because people have volunteered to do the labor. So the labor cost is free, the material cost the city pays for. Here, the labor cost the homeowner pays for, the materials are paid for, same cost.
I'm not disagreeing on the cost, and don't get me wrong, I'm not disagreeing on the cost.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, what I don't agree with is the volunteer program where
You don't want people to volunteer.
No, please don't interrupt while I'm speaking. What I disagree with is the volunteer program where a property owner can come in and say, I want the city to pay for everything, and I wanna get some volunteers to put it in. And then they go ahead and do that. That is what is not, now, the city may say, no, we don't think this is an appropriate use of the volunteer group. That is a possibility, that's possible, that could happen. Where we could say, no, that sidewalk, that piece of sidewalk that you want fixed, that doesn't fall under what we think of the intent of this program was for. I'm not opposed to the reimbursement portion when a homeowner or a property owner pays for the labor or pays for the material. I'm not opposed to that. I think the $3 increase would be a good thing, increase to $3. what I'm opposed to is that we have this volunteer group and it's not 100% consistent. It's maybe we'll do this one, maybe we'll do that one, maybe we won't do this one, maybe we won't do that one. The numbers, I don't need to explain that, I understand that. It's the concept of, we're gonna come in and we're gonna take tax dollars, we're gonna make the whole city pay for one sidewalk, for all the materials for one sidewalk. And we're gonna get a volunteer group to help put it in. That's what I'm opposed to.
Right, well, as Gerard was talking, that actually came up, so if somebody wants to repair their sidewalk, and because it says in here, this group shall include and be directed by at least one of the acting city commissioners. Now, can a homeowner come to them with say, hey, I'd like to not only get the reimbursement, but also see if I can get a volunteer group? Can that homeowner be denied the volunteer group? And on what basis would it be denied? Just say, for instance, I wanted to put a sidewalk in on my property. It's not a, yes. It's a theoretical question, but it's like if I wanted to put a sidewalk in there, I'm in a cul-de-sac, it's not a highly trafficked area. Would I be denied that volunteer group?
Well, so that's all
So
brought to the commission.
what's
It's all
the,
brought to the commission.
Has the volunteer group ever been?
Yeah, the volunteer group has been used several times.
No, ever been denied?
Oh,
so
I don't think there's been that many, examples, but Genesis was the commissioner.
please, I agree with the reimbursement, I'm in favor of the volunteer group, it's not a question of that. My question is just, okay, if someone asks for the volunteer group and that gets denied, on what basis? I'm not trying to be contentious at all. That would be my.
Mr. Mayor, may I?
Yes, please.
I think the easiest answer is just to read the resolution or ordinance. And it says, any sidewalks to be replaced, repaired, and or constructed by the volunteer group must be located in high pedestrian traffic areas. These areas are generally located on or near Bertrand Avenue, Mission Street, Palmer Street, but shall be determined by the city commission. I think it's really simple. The city commission approves a lot of things based on making a distinction on what's a priority and what's not. And so, whether it's the volunteer group or whether it's the reimbursement program, it's still just the city commission making a distinction on whether it is a good sidewalk that needs to be replaced and is worth the money, so. But that's the general idea, it's a high trafficked area. And so we've had, so the reimbursement programs, you know, on 8th Street, I know there's one there that was done, there's one on Palmer. Obviously the recent one there on Bertrand. Can't recall too many of the other ones, but, and the reason they don't get denied is because I think I've pretty much run all the volunteer sidewalk programs, is because I come to the commission and I explain, hey, here's an idea, what do you think of the idea? And I generally get some feedback before following through and asking, or working through the numbers and asking for the final approval. And generally when we do a volunteer program, we're getting a lot of people that are putting a lot of time and effort. Nobody wants to volunteer for something that doesn't make any sense and put a sidewalk in the middle of nowhere. And these are generally very well thought out, very targeted, very high traffic areas that people agree that, yeah, that makes sense. And so they're coming out in the evening and on things like part of their Saturday to help complete a project. I think these projects have been excellent. They've been well thought, sort of very targeted to the areas that are necessary. And if a person were to go back and look at the sidewalks that were replaced, repaired, created, they are excellent choices and they were all very intentional, each and every one of them. It's a good program. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, thank you, that answers my question.
But a person could be rejected for the volunteer program. A homeowner could be rejected because if the commission doesn't think that, if the commission determines that that particular sidewalk does not meet the criteria of high pedestrian traffic areas located near Bertrand or Mission or Palmer, if it doesn't meet the criteria of what some people in town may think, we have a lot of people walking through that area, so that needs to be, that the city commission would determine would be a good use of tax dollars to pay for all the materials. The only reason I'm against this, the only reason I'm against it is not 100% consistent, and I think we need, in this regard, I think we need to be consistent. I'm all for the reimbursement of the, the $3, like I said. But if Chuck came to us and said, hey, I wanna get a new sidewalk, I would say, go for it, go pay for a new sidewalk for yourself. Is that, he lives on a cul-de-sac, would that be a high traffic area that needs to be done through the volunteer project group? No, I mean, I would say no. I don't know if the majority of the commission would say no, but I would say no. And then, Chuck would have to go pay for it himself. Now, he could get the reimbursement, but because the group of 5 men say no, that's not that was not our intent when we came up with this, resolution. It's just like the most recent one we did in front of, Mark Thomas's house on 5th Street. The rationale was used as part of the, the new area where the common consumption area, thank you, Chuck. That justified, or there was a lot of people that walked down to the park. 1 block over you probably have the same exact situation. Trees have uprooted sidewalks all over this city. But that wouldn't be deemed a high traffic area. Now, I asked the question, has the volunteer group ever been denied anyone? Has that ever been denied by the city commission?
Can I, George, if I can answer that?
Yep.
Just using my example, if I ask the city to reimburse and it's not a high traffic area, I do believe that that's a fair assessment that they could make. I mean, the city's gotta look out for the common good of everybody. And if I'm in a cul-de-sac that's not highly trafficked, I can't say that, I wouldn't blame the commission for saying no to me on the volunteer group. I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, it is up to the city to make a fair judgment in every case. I mean, hey, you can disagree with it.
I would also like to point out that in the second part of the resolution, there's also a determination made. In fact, where it says in paragraph C, the sidewalk under consideration must be a public sidewalk, must be in need of repair, must also be an area of medium to high pedestrian traffic usage, as determined by the city commission. There's no way around it, Gerard. We're making a determination anytime, so we could reject someone for that. We could have rejected the reimbursing the project down at this, and he just did, correct?
I do believe it has a discretion. So on a regular sidewalk one, like this one's the $3 reimbursement, the process usually involves filling out an application, having Bob Schindler go out and look at it. And
Which could be rejected.
well, it would be rejected on the basis I think you're talking about. It would be rejected on the basis that Bob thinks the sidewalk is sufficient as is.
I'm looking at the resolution. My point is that it's exactly the same criterion, so if you want to remove the commission from making a qualitative decision, that's not in either part of the resolution. I mean, that's what, one of the things
We have to do that in every aspect,
No.
not just sidewalk, we have to.
Well, a couple years ago, Matt, when we were talking about this, you used the term consistency.
Mhm.
You wanted it to be consistent. This is not consistent. I mean, the only thing consistent is that we make the determination that a sidewalk is high traffic area.
That's
And-
consistent.
Well, your high traffic area and my high traffic area may be two different things. That to me is not consistent.
The consistency that I precisely was talking about, maybe it was 2 years ago, was just that we would make logical decisions on a case-by-case basis using the criteria that are already set forward in this. And that is what I said at the time. That's how I was defining consistency. and I still hold to that. So
Mr. Mayor,
go ahead.
could I join?
Please do.
So, I think can recognize the work that's been done in the way we've operated with this in the past. I think there's been some really good sidewalks that have come out of it. And it's worked, right? I think the city as a whole, we have a big focus on infrastructure and, the things that are considered important to the city. And a lot of that does seem to center on infrastructure and public, what's accessible to the public. So, roads, sewer, water, these projects. The city's also growing. There are a lot of people here. The amount of people you see out and about is not going to be diminishing. And I would like to know at what point what's worked in the past, great. I would like to know though, when we start thinking about when does the sidewalk, if it exists in the city today, when does that become something that the city just, it's part of the city, the way the road is, the way the other parts of infrastructure is. What my issue, and I don't even call it an issue, we'll call it an issue because I can't think of a better word. You just end up with a very patchy looking city in some cases. If the homeowner feels incentivized to do the work on their own and to get a reimbursement, then you'll end up with a nice strip of sidewalk on one part of the Palmer block. If they are, if they think they have support within the town where they could get a volunteer group to help them do it, and they can bring it to the commission, maybe they, but like for the people who are not gonna take either option and just gonna sit there, you're gonna end up with, and I would say you can already look around town and see that if you drive around. You've got a beautiful sidewalk in front of someone's house, and immediately then you have a very dilapidated and falling apart sidewalk. And to me, I would like to see just a nice sidewalk, period. And I don't know if we're ever gonna be able to incentivize every single homeowner to either get a volunteer group to do it for them or to take it on their own, even with a reimbursement. So at some point, and it doesn't have to be tonight, I think the city really needs to start thinking about the sidewalks as it's a public good. We prioritize the public good highly here. When do we start treating this as it's part of what we need to do? It's just maintenance. It's a service that the city provides, the walkability around the city, around the town. We need to, I think, start to look at that, and this is taking nothing away of how we've operated and how we've chosen to construct the sidewalks year to date. I think the city needs to start thinking through that as we continue to grow and continue to have demand for more things like walkability, like sidewalks. So, long story, but that's my view of this going forward.
We've discussed it, Shin and I, at some point, the city's probably gonna have to transition away from the chip seal, for various reasons, wherever, and if you start replacing some of not every street needs to be asphalted necessarily, but if you go through and do tear out an entire street and you're asphalted and put in new curb and gutter, we thought that might be some time that you either put it in as part of that project or make it cost share with the people that front that, so that you can do larger stretches. Now, obviously, it's got a lot of work to figure out how that project would work or whatever, but there are ideas that would, and there are other, the Von Deer project concept, but try to get 10 or 15 different property owners involved and doing it, over a weekend if possible. I mean, that's been discussed as well. So we have ideas, it's gonna take time.
I think every time a new sidewalk goes in, I immediately then notice how
And
poorly
usually
the
it's the
ones around it look, and I just would like to see a nice sidewalk all the way through, so.
You have-
That's my addition to the sidewalk conversation for tonight, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point. But, about 10 years ago, when I think the city started getting a little bit more aggressive replacing sidewalks, it had been a while since some sidewalks had been replaced. And the initial goal was to hit the absolute worst sidewalks that were in the highest traffic areas. And it wasn't really, we wanted to start on Bertrand, and we didn't want to pick both sides of Bertrand just because it was too big of a project, so we picked the one that we felt was probably the most high traffic, which is the south side. So I think we started, there was one right in front of IC Church, a big old tree there was ripping up the sidewalk, so we did that one. Then we did between College Creek and Grand, then we did somewhere around 3rd Street to 4th Street. And then, after the south side of Bertrand, then we worked on the connection sidewalks between Bertrand Palmer and Bertrand Mission. And then we worked on the south side of Palmer and the south side of Mission. But that was kind of the original, and then after that, the big expensive one was the downtown. And that was after the streetlight project where we went in and replaced those. That was pretty expensive, I forget how much, but hundreds of thousands of dollars, at least one, maybe a little bit more than that. And then recently, with the Immaculata Church moving in, the question about the pedestrian crossing there on 7th Street, then it was kind of something that wasn't on anybody's radar for a while, but Elm Street became a high priority. So to a certain extent, you're absolutely right, it's a little haphazard because it's reactionary to kind of, I don't wanna say neglect, but just not worrying about it for many decades. Whereas now I think there is an increased focus, but now that we've got the main ones taken care of, I think more holistic look. But that's why it's been a little bit, there's an old sidewalk connected to a new sidewalk because sometimes we had to determine that old sidewalk is in good enough condition that it doesn't justify being replaced because we can go a block down the road, get one that's completely obliterated. So anyway, there's been a lot of thought put into which sidewalk, but that's kind of the history behind how it was chosen, but definitely it does appear to be random, even though those were all planned out, thought out, and there was a sidewalk plan presented to the commission many years ago, identifying all of those sidewalks, prioritizing them, and then we started working over them year after year after year.
One last thing, Mr. Mayor, if I may. Nate, I think that, I agree, like, own it. If we're gonna do it, let's do it, but then, you do run into other issues, you run into other problems. I don't have sidewalks in my neighborhood. Do I get them? Get them all the way, all through Lakeview? As, where do you cut off what's fair, what's justified, what is needed, what isn't needed? That's my concern. And I do wanna go on the record saying I have never criticized any of the existing work that has been done. The only thing I've ever been critical of is that we become 100% consistent. Either we're gonna own this, or we're not. Either we're gonna do it, or we're not. But if I just would like to see that one person come here and the commission say, no, we're not gonna use the volunteer, we're not gonna utilize the volunteer concept for you, you have to pay for it yourself. At that point, in my opinion, it's all thrown out the door. Consistency is all thrown out the door at that point. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
As I recall, we're also kind of constrained by the state law a little bit, but we don't have to be. That was the beginning of this whole conversation. In any case, I don't really feel like re-saying what I said before about consistency, so rather I will just ask if I have a motion to approve resolution 3025 as presented.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve resolution 3025 as presented.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
May I second?
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. 0. 025, not 3025.
All right,
think
thank
that's
you.
right.
Let me correct that. I would, entertain a motion to approve resolution number 0325 as presented.
Move to approve resolution 0325 as presented.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor vote aye. Aye. Any opposed, vote nay.
Nay.
That is approved. 3-1. All right, are you here for the St. Joseph's Road? No, I'm sorry. St. Joseph's Crossing Road, that's our last, was it our last? Are you able to come up, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the section of the witness from the 6 units. And, the homeowners association that owns all the outside. The land, the people that go up to their units. On just the east side. The road down there, it's not a road, it's just an entry exit way. That's owned by the homeowners association. And so it's very hard, and most of the people there are retired. It's very hard for them to come up with money to have that section make it drivable. Because every time it rains, and lately, the rain has been continuous, hard, and it creates ruts. And the ruts are not easy to fill up. So the HOA has spent some money in trying to make it drivable. Because if there's an emergency, how are they gonna get the people that need and to take it someplace? And when it snows and there's ice, it's very difficult to come out. I live in the first unit, and my car doesn't have a four-wheel drive, so on Sundays, we don't. And so, my thinking was to give that section to the city, for the city to own it, maintain it. Maybe make a road if it's possible.
Okay, so are you clear here?
Well, but the homeowners association owns it, who owns it?
The homeowners association, and it's not a city street. And he's offering to give you this untravelable road to fix up for them. That's what they're basically asking. That the city put a road in for them.
Because they don't wanna do it.
Correct, and it's not a city road, it's just a path road.
But it has an exit at the bottom to that ends out.
I'm not sure that's the actual city street, so I know you don't.
It is, it's not a city street, but it ends up going into the city.
And eventually, the property owner is gonna put 5 plexes in there, but there's an issue at that, condominium place about getting everybody to sign an agreement for this road. So it's a private matter that can't be resolved because of the people involved apparently, and it's affecting everyone else.
So this, I just wanna, that road that would go from North 7th Street,
By Merchant's house,
is there an idea that it would go through and connect to the St.
Yeah, the road would go through, so would he,
But it would not be a city road.
it would be eventually, and depending on the circumstances. So when a subdivision is built, you build it to the city standards, the city takes it over and maintains it after it's initially established. We don't do that. So that part of Murtha's yard, in theory, would be surrendered, and he would get some land behind his house. This was a deal that was worked out 5 years ago, and they would put a road in, because it's only 1 lane wide now. They want to make it the full lane, and it would go through. It was one of the things we talked about. But what they're talking about is they'll have access to the property, and they are good access during inclement weather, and they're wanting someone to help them.
So I guess you're here as the person owning the inside of one of these units.
No, the homeowners association has 3.
So you're here on behalf of the homeowners association? Okay. So you own them, you own the your association owns this.
Yeah, and everybody that lives there is, I do there, but.
When they were initially built, why weren't they required to put a road in?
Well, so there was a bigger development when it was initially planned,
I
and it didn't happen. And I don't recall, Bob's probably watching or will be, but I don't remember the circumstances of why it wasn't put in.
I remember, we used to own one of those condos, we asked that same question, is why wasn't a road put in, even then, nobody could answer why. And that's, I didn't know if you,
No,
why it wasn't required.
no, I think it was required, I just don't think it got done. So when I first moved here, the people who lived to the south of there were receiving runoff from the whole area, and it's going through their property behind there. So there's a number of issues that exist that I don't know how it got done, other than that mistakes are made.
So, in the event that those 5 plexes were gonna go up, those were gonna be adding on to the current St. Joseph's,
It'd be on the northern side,
but it'd still
down
be
there.
part of that.
And the road would be part of this, they'd be served by that road, but
So at that point, it'd be theirs, so
it would be paid
would the
for,
city, would they be responsible for connecting to 7th, or would the city drag 7th further up?
so the developer put the road in from 63. It would go through, as they had drawn up, down to 7th
Okay.
Street. And since the developer is putting in, the people who would pay for it would be the people who bought the lots.
Okay.
But in this case, it would be the developer, because he's probably gonna rent those, right, the 5 plexes. And then the association would get its share, but
And then he
not
turns it over to
everyone,
the city.
there's a person apparently, a lot more maybe, that's prohibiting this from happening.
So if that were to happen, then this would be a moot point.
It'd be a moot point, because the development would be done to city standard, the city would take it over, and, kumbaya, I guess, but there's a stumbling block that I'm not gonna talk about publicly, that apparently is gonna be there for.
Well, could I ask, are you in a position as the homeowner association to talk to deal with the stumbling block? To negotiate, it seems like the the more elegant solution here is
It might be something that,
apparently someone doesn't want to let the road go through there. Go ahead, Francis.
no one pay for it.
Go ahead.
So I recall, a few years ago, there was a rezone request and it's a replat or whatever.
It was, yeah.
It was Joe Sorokas,
Mhm.
and he owns, the large section of that property, which is kind of to the north of those 6 condo units and also west. And then,
Behind that.
yeah, Joe was planning to put a bunch of 5-plexes or whatever back in there and then connect Highway 63 down to 7th Street. And the plan was to put a road in there that's, all built to city specs, asphalt and all that good stuff. And then he'd have some rental property back in there. And if I'm understanding correctly, in order for him to do that, he has to get approval from the homeowners association.
But he thinks it needs to be unanimous unanimously approved by all members of the people who live in the condo. And I suggested he find out to see if it can't be done by a simple majority, but you're on the right track, yes.
And I think from if what I'm hearing is correctly, the person who wanted to do the development would put in a road if the
If they could
the
work out.
homeowners association would grant him permission to do the work and do his development.
I guess I'll have to check with them.
Exactly the case.
And you are representing
The board
that homeowners association?
and we need a permission from everybody, because everybody is a member of the HOA. And there's two people that handle the business, taxes and exactly how much each unit has to pay, each one that lives there. They're supposed to make a contribution, say like,
But it just seems that if that's the same homeowner, if that homeowner's organization is coming to the city asking us to build a road, but it's also the same organization precluding the building of a road by making a deal with.
What would be the paying of it? So they're asking that the city pay for it. And it should be reversed. They should pay for it and the city accept it and then maintain it.
When did the HOA come into existence?
the problem is, we can't come up with money to build a road.
Mr. Shiver, do you know when the HOA was started?
When, the man was built, when he finished building them.
I don't believe that's correct, because I owned one, and I don't remember us paying any HOA
We
fee.
have to pay.
No HOA dues, not that I recall, I could be wrong, but, so do you pay a monthly HOA?
We do, everybody does, but except one guy that he was,
And where does that money, what does that money go towards?
taxes and insurance.
The exterior of the building, the mowing of the grass probably, or,
Yeah,
no?
Well, I don't know, all I know is, when I owned it, there was no HOA. We paid all the insurance on the property, on the building, the square footage. We paid, insurance for the contents therein,
You own the inside of that condo, so you'd have to have insurance for it.
yeah.
They're talking about the exterior, and that's what the group has to pay, because it's all tied together, I believe.
But all that notwithstanding, the real question here is,
Yeah.
you would like a new road. My understanding is there's a developer who wants to build a new road,
yeah,
not you, but the developer.
yeah.
But the homeowners association who wants the road built doesn't want to make an agreement with the person who will build the road. Is that about?
One member of that association, I believe.
Yeah, but if the city builds the road, then they would own the road.
Right, I understand that part, but we, as Maurice has explained, that's not the normal process, and that's do you understand what I'm saying? I understand the need for I think we all agree it would be better for you to have a road than not have a road, that's really not, I don't think anyone's arguing against that.
Right.
But, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of the scenario is that your homeowners organization is keeping the developer from building exactly the road that you want to have built, that you want us to build.
No, it is, no, we're not keeping anybody from,
Well, there's a
The
property
guy-
owner who
the
is
guy-
part of it,
Okay,
maybe.
Joe, I'm sorry.
the north side of the road is owned by,
Sorokas.
Sorokas.
Isn't he the developer who wants to build the road?
Yes. He was here a couple weeks ago talking to me about this, and he said he would do it, but he cannot get every member, he said every member of that condo who lives there, all the owners have to sign. He said one person will not sign,
Yeah.
and I look, cause he would,
Why is that? Is that?
What's the reason for not agreeing to it?
I don't,
And I guess my point would be maybe that, I would suggest that the more sensible solution is instead of coming to us to ask us to build a road, or, to the city, we represent the city, to build a road, maybe you could talk to the people whoever is not wanting to build the road and maybe try to convince that person, because it seems like we have a funding source for the road.
The problem is, their office told me that, to get the loan to build the units he was going to build, there has to be a paper signed that he wouldn't be sued by anybody that lives in the units. That's what he told me. And then he said that the bank and the loaner are the ones that are requiring those people to be signed by everybody,
Promising they won't sue him, like ever.
ever. So, for what
I don't know.
You're way off track here.
Yeah, we are.
That's a developer property owner.
It's all civil, it's all civil.
There's a lot of legal writing in it. I read it, but I don't understand most of it. I can bring it some other time.
Well, I think that I could speak for us here, I think. I'm not sure we want to be in the middle of it. I don't think we really want to build a new road. And it sounds like there's a mechanism for having a road built, if you can figure this out. I think the city's ready to provide whatever kind of permitting is
Well,
necessary.
they won't have to put their road through, they'd have to just, from their duplex or their condo to the highway, I mean, but they're saying they'll have the money to do that, is what he's also saying.
He-
Jim,
Well, but I'm talking about the developer.
Sorokas?
Yeah.
Jim,
But I don't necessarily don't have to use names, I'm just saying that
Jim.
we have a mechanism for building the road.
Well, there's procedures, and so we're treating this as a mini subdivision, and just like they put in the water and sewer lines to city standard, and the city then accepts it as part of its infrastructure and maintains it, it's the same thing with the road.
Sure.
So, the issue they're having is a civil issue amongst themselves
Yeah.
that, and that, cause this has been going on for several years, I'm sorry.
Just a random question. So the subdivision is starting to be built.
Would be Bill, yeah.
Well, it started, right?
This one.
Yeah, I mean, it 6 condos went up, right? That was part of the.
Oh, so with the St. Joe, the old one, yes.
Okay, so that went up, and there was supposed to be more of them.
Yeah, I think so, there's like 3 or 4 clusters of those in the
Okay.
road.
And so, at what point did we say, hey, you don't need a road? Like, why weren't we, like, can't we say you have to have a road? I mean,
Yeah, I think that was it 30 years ago?
Yeah, you're not gonna go back, you're not gonna be able to go back and get the original contractor. It's kind of, in a way, Maurice reminds me of the sewer issue in our backyard.
Sure.
You know, there's an issue, there's no way we were going back to get the original contractor that started building houses in Lakeview, who all of a sudden was dumping 4 streets worth of water right along a path where sewer lines were, where you aren't going to go back and get them. And the same thing in this case, it should have been done initially, when those first 6 condos were put in, it should have been a road put in, but it wasn't. And I don't think we're gonna be able to sit here today, go back and say, hey, whoever built those 6 condos, you need to put a road in. They're not gonna do it.
And it's been replatted, I mean,
yeah, it's not like.
so, but yeah, that's the whole issue, is that things weren't.
I think, personally, I think, you know, it should have been done that way. It wasn't done that way, but at this point, I agree with Maurice. It is a civil matter, not one that we should be involved in. As much, I understand what you're saying, Mr. Chevrolet. My mother-in-law lived in one of those condos for a while, and getting her in and out to take her to church or take her to the grocery store, any snow, any ice, any rain, it was almost impossible because of how steep it is. And, you know, the amount of mud and the erosion. So I understand what you're saying, but personally, I just don't think it's the city. I mean, if a road is built and then we wanna take it over, that's one thing, but I don't think it should be us to build the road.
What I understood was their office was gonna build the road and then give it to the city for maintenance. But what he told me is want that person that won't sign it, he wants it.
Correct, and I won't say advise, and we've spoken about this, like this, Joe's Rose and I just, get an opinion from your attorney. Does everyone have to sign it, or can a majority of the people sign it as a group? Do you need everybody? And I've told that to Joe, and all Joe keeps saying is he doesn't want to leave problems for his kids. So I don't know what to do other than that. This has been going on for years.
So in the meantime, maybe, if you know the people involved, maybe you could encourage, everyone to do what is necessary to completely what seems like a good plan to me. We need housing. It'd be nice to have that connection through 7th Street. But I don't think we're the ones that solve this problem.
No, I figured if they straighten would take over.
We would take over it under the I'd say, well, I'm one person, but I think we would take over under the normal conditions, which are,
They should
the
be able-
potential is right there to have it done and get a whole
How
street
am I gonna
built.
put a sidewalk in?
Yeah, sure, we can do it as you build it, we wouldn't have to worry about whether it's a volunteer group or not. Excellent idea. So I think we appreciate the challenge, and, I guess all I would say is I would encourage you to try to figure out how you can get the bigger project move forward by talking to your fellow members of the homeowners association. I mean, that's what I would say. I don't know if anyone else has any other comment.
I agree with you.
That's fine, I mean,
Okay.
I just need to try to find out if it could be done.
Yeah, have you spoken with,
Joe
or
Sorokas?
have you spoken to Mr. Chevrolet about this before?
No, Joe Sorokas has been my contact.
I might suggest that if you could, so that you could explain the scenario to him a little bit more.
I think it should be Joe and their attorney, because there is no solution unless Joe's satisfied. And I think there's a way to do it, but you have to accept it.
You're right, but,
An alternative would be to not go to road and just try to buy a load of rock or something, and fill in those ruts, but that's not a long-term solution, but.
we have spent, the HOA has spent about
Yeah.
$2,000 in the last 2 months to get that, roads, fixed up, to make it drivable. Every time it rains, the rocks show up again.
There's a little bit of concrete up in your road, and then it drops off, and the grade is very steep grade, and it's not,
There is no drainage, engineer drainage there. The men that made it drivable, he did something, there were some tubing under it to take that water out.
Well, again, I think, all I can do is recommend that maybe you try to resolve this with Joe. I think that-
Well, he and I had a good discussion on it, and he told me he doesn't have the money because that guy won't sign it. And if he doesn't sign it, the bank and the loaner won't give him the loan. So we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And we just have to pray that we can make it.
Hopefully, maybe the rock or the hard place will,
I don't
change
know.
its opinion.
We're in trouble, we just have to live with it, I guess. The thing that concerns me most is there's retirees, and most of them except one person that lives there.
Yeah.
And if there's an emergency, Well,
I know, I agree with you,
if there could be an exit, at the exit, it would be used. Maybe they can come down and take it to the exit and then take the truck.
So we're all agreed upon the problem, we just need to find a solution. And I think that's between you, the homeowners association, and Joe. That's what I think.
I guess we're gonna try to get it. But he keeps telling me
Yeah,
the money
I
won't be
understand,
approved and so.
and I don't wanna be rude, but I think maybe we ought to wrap this.
I agree with
Discussion.
you. We're just gonna be running
I think
around the
so,
same
yeah.
thing over and
Yeah.
over. It's gonna be midnight, and we'll still be
And
here.
as much as we enjoy doing that sort of thing, yeah, I wanted to go back and talk about sidewalks some more, but, I guess we'll have to defer that for another day.
Well, anyway, thank you very much for.
Well,
listening.
we do, appreciate the situation, but
Thank you very much for
Sure.
your time.
Any reports? That having been said,